Give me what I want and I will go away. That's Andre Lenoge's message to the people of Little Tall Island during the storm of the century. So in this edition of R&B Reviews, I'm talking about, obviously, Storm of the Century, the television miniseries written specifically for television by Stephen King and directed by Craig R. Baxley, who later on went to direct other Stephen King written for television miniseries, Rose Red and Kingdom Hospital. But this one's by far the best anything I think Stephen King's written specifically for television. It was the second miniseries he wrote specifically for television, and it's a eerie story that just screams Stephen Kingedness, I guess, in it. And it originally aired in February of 1999, so it's about 10 years old, and yeah, like a lot of shows and whatnot from the 90s and miniseries, you could still tell it was filmed back then. It's presented in full screen. I don't like it when stuff's in full screen, but that's just me nitpicking. Let's get into the actual movie here. The actual miniseries. It's about Little Tall Island is an island, I believe it's off of Maine, and the citizens there are anticipating this massive winter storm. It's being called the Storm of the Century. So a lot of the citizens leave the island and get the hell out of there, and sort of like a small number of them stay on the island and shack up with food, and they set up emergency shelters and stuff like that. And a man comes to town by the name of Andre Lenoge and immediately murders an old woman. Now this is all in the first couple minutes, so I'm not ruining anything for you here. He murders her in the first couple minutes, and the constables brought in our main character Mike, played by Tim Daly, who apprehends him, and they bring him into jail. But the thing about Andre Lenoge is he knows things no one else should know. He knows people's secrets, and he has a very Lon Chaney Jr.-esque cane, like what he had in The Wolfman. It's a really cool cane with like a wolf's head on it, and I want that cane. That's just really creepy for a horror movie character. Andre Lenoge is played by Colm Fiore, who is fantastic in this. I mean, in terms of Stephen King villains and actors doing great performances, I gotta put Colm Fiore up there with Jack Nicholson in The Shining and Kathy Bates in Misery. He does a fantastic job of just being creepy as hell. I mean, it feels like the rest of the acting is a little uneven at times. Jeffrey DeMunn is in this. This would be one of his 4 appearances in a Stephen King story. The rest were his Frank Darabont movies. He plays sort of a town manager, and you get to know the important people in the town. Most of them are people who have children and stuff like that, which comes into play later on. But as more murders and suicides are happening in the town with the words, "Give me what I want and I'll go away," they begin to take Andre Lenoge much more seriously, not as a man anymore, but as sort of a just evil presence. I mean, he's got sharp teeth and stuff that pop out every so often, and it's just that he has this supernatural power. You're never really sure 100% of what Andre Lenoge is or what he does in the world. But Storm of the Century also makes an awesome connection to the historical Roanoke story for the history buffs out there. And I knew about beforehand, and I loved it. Stephen King's made mention of it in other short stories of his and stuff like that, connections with it, but I liked it that it was heavily brought up in this story, and it plays into it nicely. I definitely don't want to ruin anything, because I believe this is roughly about like 4 hours or so. It originally aired in 3 parts, 3 weeks. But it all flows together nicely, aside from when you have to flip the disc over. It's one of those flip disc DVDs. This isn't too expensive. I mean, I got this for like a couple bucks on Amazon like a few months ago, and I only got around to watching it this week, and I've been watching it every night before I go to sleep. It's creepy as hell for being a television miniseries. I gotta give it that. It's just creepy how people are killing themselves, being possessed in sorts by Andre Lenoge. And the name Andre Lenoge is such a cool bad guy name. He's one of my favorite Stephen King creations. I hope he pops up in another story of sorts. And this is the best miniseries, I think, horror miniseries made for TV, period, maybe. It's fantastic. It's got a great storm. It's a little dated in the effects and stuff like that. I mean, but story's told in Stephen King fashion. It opens up with our character Mike narrating it, you know, telling the story like 10 years ago on Little Tall Island, you know, this and this happened. And the storm itself is great, and I can really relate. Living out here in the Midwest, we get heavy storms, and we had a storm like 10 years ago that felt like the storm of the century, with like 20-foot snowbanks and whatnot. But the story's just creepy. It gets you thinking whenever there's a storm. I remember watching this when it was on TV 10 years ago, and it creeped me out a lot then. Still creeps me out. Colin Fiore is fantastic in it. He's a great actor. I don't know why he doesn't get a lot of wonderful roles, particularly something like this. Folks out there looking for a good underrated movie to watch, check out the movie The Lesser Evil. It's a great film. He's in that. But bottom line, this Halloween season, if you haven't checked out Storm of the Century yet, this would be a great time of the year to do it, and I promise I will not talk about anything else Stephen King for the rest of the month. I will try my best. But I wanted to go out with one final Stephen King review for something that was really awesome to me, and that's Storm of the Century. Check it out. It's great. Probably not go watch it in one sitting, but it's great to watch, you know, periodically, a couple nights before you go to sleep. Great miniseries, great acting, well shot, and perfectly written. Andre Lenoge's lines are awesome in this. But check it out. It will make a great addition to your DVD library this holiday season, and thanks for watching this edition of R&B Reviews.